when people talk about money in football, they talk about clubs with big backers and stuff like that. But we
Mhm.
also have situations where players are making incredible money and fantastic money. Now, the situation with COVID-19 and football probably changing for the next, I don't know, 18 months, with a lot of revenue coming from in stadium money, so the money that's spent on tickets and all that kind of stuff. If that revenue goes down, should players take a hit on that as well? Should players be looking at a pay cut over the next however many months? Possibly for the foreseeable future, depending on how well or how quickly the football kind of stadiums fill up or they don't fill up.
Okay, based on just the fact that attendances will be down, I don't think they should take a pay cut. No, primarily because was it the Bayern Munich chairman when they were talking about ticket prices and why ticket prices in Germany are so much lower than they are over here, was saying that we'll happily cut ticket prices because it's only 3 million a season or something that would be losing out. So if they're only losing that amount of money, charging people 20 euros a ticket instead of whatever it is in the Premier League, 50, 60, 70, then it's not a massive amount of money that they're losing out on. However, if you're basing it on like the top earners that are making 300, 400, 500,000 pounds a week, maybe there should be a salary cap. But I wouldn't say taking a pay cut is fair, because all these people have all got expenses as well, mind. It's not like they're all sort of living in 2-bedroom semis, do you know what I mean? And driving a metro or whatever, do you know what I mean? They've got expenses, so I don't think it's fair to just say, right, you need to give us half your wages or whatever. But I think going forward, maybe a salary cap might be something to look at.
I think on
That's
the
my
flip side, guys, do you feel like it's right that certain clubs have furloughed their staff?
Yeah.
Well, there's not much the staff can do. So the staff actually don't have work to do if there's no football being played. So I understand that the staff are sitting at home.
Yeah.
But
To be fair,
to use government money, I don't know where I stand on that.
I don't really see a problem with it. I mean, it's there for that reason. Like, every single business is entitled to it, apart from, I think, like, key worker businesses. They're not entitled to it because all the people are still at work.
Yeah.
What I do agree with is that clubs should top it up rather than just saying there's your 80% off the government. I think the clubs should top it up so their employees aren't losing out.
Yeah, make it up to 100.
Exactly, yeah. Exactly. Make sure that we're
Okay,
not
but
actually losing them.
with that as well, is it there for that purpose? Like, is it there for companies that can afford not to do it, or is it there for companies that can't afford to not do it? Because I think that's been a debate as well, because it's a case of going, because at the end of the day, this will have to be paid back in some way, shape or form, right? Do you know what I mean? Now, the government's going to go and take it out of defence spend or something. I'm maybe not getting to that territory because it's dark, but, you know, do we see that happening? Possibly not. But if a company and clubs that have that level of profit, is that something that should be paid for by, what will it end up being paid for by the taxpayer? That's what I'm asking. So if a company can afford to not do it, should they be doing it?
So here's the thing. I think morally it's more of a question than legally. So I think legally, like G said, it's completely fair. Like, everyone's doing it. Everyone's
That's the
entitled
thing.
to it.
It's not just that, because all these people at football clubs, it's not like the ones that are being furloughed are getting millions of pounds a week, is it? They're all like tea ladies and stewards and all this sort of stuff. So if bank managers can be sat at home on furlough, what's the difference?
No, but I think that's the point. It's not that it's not that they don't deserve it. It's the fact that can't these football clubs and banks afford to pay it themselves?
Yeah, they can, but I'm just saying that it's not just a football issue. So
I agree with
if
you, G. It's not just the football. Like but it's not really. It's hard to say because I can imagine these football clubs paying a lot of taxes as well. So they've
yeah,
actually probably put in a lot more than the SME that's got 100 staff that hasn't. Do you know what I mean? Hasn't turned over the amount that these football clubs have turned over. So they probably have paid the same amount of tax, and they've probably generated all that tax through their players paying tax and all that kind of stuff. We'll forget that there might be loopholes that they're exploiting, but they probably are paying their taxes. So they probably pay more than the average man. So are they entitled to it? Probably. I remember reading this conversation about Victoria Beckham, and apparently, like, she paid something like 12 million a year in taxes into the British tax system, and then everyone's like, "Oh, she's using the furlough scheme, which is worth 400 million and stuff." So I'm making up these numbers, but ballpark. And then that's when I was like, well, actually, she's paid enough into the tax system for her to get something back, probably as a one-off in her whole business career. She's probably not going to have to ask for the government. So in that respect, I think the clubs are entitled to it, and they should probably take it. However, there will be clubs that are showing a loss, that are probably paying a lot of money to their players and stuff like that, but they're showing a loss, so they're probably not paying the tax. I don't know. It's a moral debate, Mikey. I don't know. What do you think?
The other thing is as well, though, with a lot of these football clubs, they've got so many staff that if there isn't as much income coming in, then you get into the stage where you need to take the money off the players to pay the rest of the staff. Is that fair? Possibly. That's perhaps a fairer way of doing it.
What are the players paid for, though? So if we think about that, what are the players paid for? They paid for, like, playing football. So at the moment, obviously, contractually, you can't take money off them. But at the moment, they're not playing football. They're not fulfilling that duty. But if they are able to play football, even behind closed doors, some clubs are still asking for that pay cut.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that?
No.
One thing to touch upon with the players, sorry, just to jump in there, G, but one thing with the players as well is the fact that the idea that they only earning money while they play. Right? Are the clubs still selling merchandise with their image rights? Are the clubs still, they're not only earning, they're actually earning, like, for example, you mentioned Victoria Beckham there, so let's get into the Beckhams. Beckham was one of the people that learned early. If you look at where football's gone now, I think there's kind of been roadmaps towards where footballers are today. And I think Beckham's an important milestone within that of what a brand he became. I think if Beckham purely was paid everything that is associated with his brand, he would earn a lot more than what he ever earned from football, which is probably why he's become who he is. So actually, when you get into that point, it's the clubs that still earn more. That's why they're able to pay the players what they pay them. You don't get upset with the person earning the good money. You get like, but what about who's paying their wages? what are they earning? do you know what I mean? Because without the footballers, there is no sport. They're the talent. That's the same in the music industry. It's the same in the film and TV industry. Like, they're the people that allow a business to happen. So there is that side of it as well. I feel like the big clubs could definitely, they've got reserves to deal with this situation, unless it's goes on for 5-10 years or something. But they've got ridiculous money. And you know what? How would you feel if a club was to do something like that, was to furlough people like that, right? And then when the transfer market opens, they go and spend 60 million on this.
Imagine they spend really big.
Wow.
So
to be able to sign a player, they should probably, that's one thing where they said, you know what, we furloughed everyone, but we're not going to be active in the transfer market. You can go, well, must be real. do you know what I mean? That's when I think it gets ethical.
Was it Burnley that was saying that if it carries on for longer than 6 months, they're in real trouble, like, of going under? What it was like, it was a Premier League team, and if you think about how many
I think Norwich as well. I think Norwich not one of the ones that were furloughed. In fact, have they not furloughed? Have they done it? Norwich.
I'm not sure. I don't know.
They were definitely saying they were doing it, and when Liverpool and Spurs were going to do it, weren't they? And then the PR backlash was quite grim on them when they didn't do. But I think even then, Norwich were like, no, we're still doing it because we have to. I'm sure they were trying to make an
Probably
economic.
right. It was definitely Burnley and definitely a couple of other teams who are like, if it goes on for longer than 6 months, they're in trouble. And if you look at the amount of TV money,
Unbelievable for most clubs. I think if it goes for 6 months or whatever, I think because are they getting TV money? They can't be getting TV money.
Yeah. Well, they've already got it.
They already had it, Ali.
You get it at the beginning of the season.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, they're probably worried that they need to pay that back if again, I don't know how that would work, but that comes into it again about ticket sales. Like some of these big clubs, I mean, that's the thing. Like if you look at when was it the Premier League 1992, wasn't it? The Premier League started when they got rid of the old First Division, went for the Premier League. That was even back then, that was a deal worth £191 million over 5 years. In 1992, how much was that?
That's so
That
much.
was it.
I mean, that's even then. And what was it? I think I wrote some of this down, but in 2001, even the naming rights for Barclaycard Premier League was 48 million, and then we for 65.8 million in 2007. That's where the money is. Like that, it's the TV. That's where the definitely Man United could play in front of an empty season, like an empty stadium all season, and they would still earn more from what they earn than what they earn from the stadium. Like, they don't need it.
The reason I said
5,000 seater stadium. You know what I mean?
The reason I said that was because I remember reading about Tottenham, and Tottenham when they were moving, obviously Tottenham have been very shrewd in the business they've done, right? So they've spent, obviously not on players, but spent on a new stadium, spent what, 500 million on a new stadium? But when they were playing at Wembley, I remember their ticket sales, etc., going up by 50%, and they were like, this has a big impact on our balance sheet. And Tottenham were happy that they had more seats and more revenue coming in from ticket sales because they could seat more people. Same way Liverpool increased their capacity, clubs are increasing their capacity. There must be a bigger impact on the club than we think with these ticket sales. You wouldn't really need to increase capacity and spend that money.
No, it gives them an edge. Like, let's be honest. Like, if they only had, I said they could play in front of an empty stadium, you wouldn't want to, of course.
Yeah.
What I'm saying, of course.
Well, that's it. I mean, if everybody else is doing it and it's a fair playing field, fair enough. It doesn't really matter. Whereas if you're the only team not playing in front of fans and everybody else is, you'd be like, I'm losing out on £8 million a week or whatever it is.
Yeah.
8 million, even
and,
8 million.
Levy does count the pennies as well.
Levy, I was looking into it.
What did you say? Levy has wee Tyrannosaurus Rex arms.
Wee Tyrannosaurus arms and massive deep pockets.
You know what I mean? So he is one of those. Do you know what I mean? But then, I mean, what did you guys think about Spurs and Liverpool were looking at furloughing before that happened? What did you think of that? And do you think they were right to change their mind on it?
Go for it, G.
I mean, as long as the employees were getting their full wages, I wasn't really bothered who paid the extra 80%. Because I know Liverpool's plan was to top up the furlough scheme to make sure that everybody's getting 100%. And I think Tottenham were planning to do that as well. I would assume they were. And as far as I'm concerned, as long as the employees aren't losing out on anything for something that's out with their control, fair enough.
So let's just say they didn't top up. How would you feel about it?
I wouldn't be very happy about that.
So is it okay for the staff to take that 20% pay cut, but the players not to?
Ali's got a look in his face like he's just gone twist.
No, I'm torn. Like, I don't know the answer to this. And I'm torn. Like, if I was a footballer, would I take a pay cut for something that is happening? I don't know. But then would I want to see my kit man take a pay cut when I'm
Yeah.
earning 200 grand a week and this guy's earning what?
Guys, where's the pay cut go? Like, okay, if this is Man United and that's going into that banker who decides our transfers pockets, then I'm not very unhappy with it. Where's the money going? It should be going then to the NHS, so it should be going to a charity. Like that money that's being saved, yeah, okay, where's that going? Because I think the players could certainly buy into that sort of thing as well. And we're being a bit cynical about it. Football sometimes the sport needs a good bit of PR at times for that kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? For looking like it's not totally alienated from the rest of society. I mean, I'll tell you what, Ali, let me throw you one back at you. Is it justifiable that footballers earn what they do compared to doctors and nurses in the NHS right now?
So footballers earn what they do. I remember Steven Gerrard talking about this, and he was like, the amount of happiness we bring to people, you can't put a price to that. So that's why we earn what we earn. And I think he could say it. He said it after winning a Champions League or something like that. And he's like, the amount of happiness. And I've seen people react, like, you know, the diehards, when they react to a big thing, when City won that league with Aguero's goal, whatever, the people were crying. Like, people probably had one of the best days of their life. I'm not talking about like, oh, had a great day in a season or had a great... They probably had the best day of their life. And they would say, oh, it was better than having my kids. It was better than getting married. And they'll say stuff like that. So do they earn their money? I think they do. I do think they do. But what is a bigger problem for me is if the football clubs were still making what they made, but the footballers weren't earning the money. The issue with nurses and firefighters and policemen is the fact that there isn't, or we're told there isn't a big earning situation and you're only getting the tiniest breadcrumbs. It's a case that, look, there's no money in the pot and this is what you're getting. Whereas with football, if there was money in the pot and the pot was billions of pounds big, but the footballers were getting paid 50 grand a year, 100 grand a year, then I think I would have an issue.
Yeah.
The thing is that taking a pay cut...
You answered that question very well there. Well done.
Taking the pay cut. So Ozil came out and said it, that if you can let me know where the money's going, I'm happy to take a bigger pay cut than you're asking for. But he said no to a pay cut. He said, I'm not going to take a pay cut. Two players in the Arsenal squad said, we're not taking pay cuts. But Ozil hit the front, like hit the headlines.
Roy Keane came out saying he wouldn't have taken one. But, you know, Roy Keane just went in the room as usual and went, which one's unpopular? I'll say that and then I'll do that as I do it.
Yeah.
and said, what does he always says? Behave. Do you know what I mean? And that'll be my soundbite. Do you know what I mean? He can't wait to pull out the unpopular opinion, can he?
But I think what you said earlier, Mikey, that if they could document, like, look, you're taking a pay cut. This is why you're taking it. This is where we're heading. Ozil was like, look, let's give it a bit of time. What happened if these these football players took pay cuts and then at the end of the year, the club still announced a big profit?
Yeah. Because they're the ones that bring the value. I think bringing it back to the question we asked, is it kind of fair that footballers earn that money, I guess, towards to people that are saving everyone's lives right now? I think it also comes into the question of, I think we'll need to see what happens when we come out the back of this about where society places its value in things, because I think that's the thing. Yeah. While people believe that watching footballers is more important than, you know, saying the birth of the kids or the marriage, or, you know, I guess that shows that we're in a society that puts so much value on that, and that's why they can go, well, that's the value, and therefore that equates to X amount of money, and so be it. I definitely see where you're coming from the players' point of view as well, in terms of what they earn compared to the clubs, because again, no footballers, no, you know, you go through all the kind of players in history, Maradonas to your Pelés to Ronaldinho's to whoever you want to name. These players are the reason why those stadiums fill up, why those brands want to associate their name to that shirt, why, stadiums get renamed, all these different things, it's because of the magic that happens on that pitch. It's not to do with what happens in the boardroom.
So I remember reading a conspiracy theory a while back, which was that
Here we go.
it was the Ronaldo, the real Ronaldo, in the '98 World Cup final. Did he not faint pre-match? And then
Swallowed his tongue, apparently.
And then 2 hours before, they said he's not playing. But then he played that game. Apparently, a lot of pressure was from Nike that they wanted the best guy on the park, and it was a commercial pressure. It wasn't a pressure like I think the manager came out and kept saying that Ronaldo made the decision. It's his decision. But there's a lot of theories out there that actually it was Nike that forced him onto the park.
He might have made the decision, but he was told to make the decision. He might have said, apparently he swallowed his tongue. It's kind of well documented. Roberto Carlos, I think, pulled his tongue out of his mouth, didn't he?
Something like that.
Out of his throat, and he was like, so what is true is that the team sheets were delivered first of all with his name not on there.
Yeah.
And then they were amended afterwards. That did happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, everything else is conjecture, I guess, for what actually went on.
Is that the bad side of money in football? Is that the bad side of someone demanding their shirts worn on a World Cup final by the best player in the world that's going to win the Golden Boot? Like
they can say that's what they paid. It's like we you might not get to another World Cup final. We've paid all this money knowing that there's a chance you would get there at least once. Here you are, and actually you're not playing. It's not what we paid for. Now again, I don't know if that was a small print in the detail. If you're injured, you better strap on a pair and get in there. Do you know what I mean? But there must have been a case of going, no, we paid, and
So how much?
Maybe we won't renew the contract next time. Say again, sir.
So how much of the players and the clubs are feeling that pressure where they have to fulfil the rights of that? I just don't know about this whole kind of players taking a cut and how much pressure is on players to do what's ethically right versus what is, like Chelsea are a great example at the moment where they've provided their hotel, they've done a lot of stuff, they've donated. Chelsea right now have set a great example of how to act when people are in need, and football's just on the back burner and all that kind of stuff. And I was really pleased when Klopp came out initially and said that when they were like, oh, what about if the league doesn't finish? And he's like, look, lives are way more important than the league, so it doesn't really matter. And he came out with, so these are like great examples. But then do the players have a right? I'm just torn. Morally and ethically, I'm just torn. If I was a player, would I take a pay cut? I don't know if I'd rather just give the money to charity. Like
that's the point I'm saying, though. They could take a pay cut in terms of they could just be still paid what they're normally paid, but then that money is then distributed between them, and where the pay cut amount goes to, then is put into this fund that has been regulated.
As far as I remember, that's what happened. Didn't Jordan Henderson and some other players?
Yeah, Harry Maguire.
Yeah, I think it was all the Premier League captains sort of set up a fund for the. I don't know if it's the NHS in general or key workers or.
But my question is with that, G, is that then a case where they're getting their money and then they're doing that themselves, but then or are the club like?
Do you want Harry Kane?
Yeah, for Leyton Orient.
Yeah. Did you see this, Mikey?
Say that again, sir.
So Harry Kane bought the advertising rights for Leyton Orient, and he's advertising.
It was their shirt sponsorship. He paid for their shirt sponsorship for, I don't know if it was all the next year or what, but he's basically paid for their shirt sponsorship, eh?
And he's putting up like NHS and stuff like that on the shirts.
No, I never saw that. That's cool.
So I'm pretty sure I read that today or yesterday. But he's putting his money into good use. The club probably haven't told him to do that. But you can respect someone who's like, okay, regardless of he's taking a pay cut or not, he's actually putting his money. He's like, do you know what, I'm going to put it back into football. They probably need that. Leyton Orient probably need it. There's a lot of chat of a lot of clubs going under because of this situation.
Yeah,
where the clubs don't have the TV rights. So say, for example, you're a championship club and all that kind of stuff, you rely on ticket sales. And if you can't fill up a stadium with people shoulder by shoulder touching each other, then I think you're going to struggle.
Yeah.
So it might not wipe out the Premier League or clubs near the top of the Premier League that get TV money and stuff like that. But lower leagues, like the Championship, all that kind of stuff, these are very, very well-supported leagues. And they rank quite highly in the most watched leagues in Europe.
I'm sure, is the Championship not like 5th or 6th or something out of all the leagues in Europe?
Something like that. I think it might even be higher, G. I think it was 3rd when I checked it, but I think that was like 5 years ago. It might have changed. But it was quite high up. Maybe not 3rd, maybe 4th or whatever. But that is on ticket sales. That's not on anything else. And those clubs, how will they carry on paying their players?
It's maybe we are going to go more towards a model where it is going to be a case of live streaming everything, which we'd already started to look at anyway with Amazon Prime and stuff like that, where it was like they have these days where every single game's on. It's kind of like the American model, isn't it? You ever see like the Premier League games on in America, you've normally got every single match available. Same in like
same with baseball
like
and
any of the Central Asia channels as well. They're doing the same sort of thing. I think maybe it's more towards that, and it will move away from stadiums.